On paper, Marco Bezzecchi's win at the US Grand Prix looked simple. You know, clean, controlled, totally dominant. But if you only look at that final result, you're missing the real story. This wasn't just a race about who was fastest. It was an absolute masterclass in discipline, mental recovery, and just perfect control.
All right, so let's break this down. We're going to start with that simple result and why it's so deceptive. Then we'll dive into the chaotic weekend full of mistakes that led up to it. From there, you'll see how this whole thing became a redemption ride, why control beat pure speed, and finally, what made this a lesson in flawless discipline. At first glance, the 2026 US Grand Prix seems pretty clear-cut, right? From the moment he grabbed the lead on lap 1, Marco Bezzecchi just checked out. It really looked like a totally effortless win.
And yeah, the final results, they seem to back that up. Bezzecchi finished over 2 seconds ahead of his teammate Jorge Martin, with Pedro Acosta almost 4.5 seconds back. In MotoGP, that is not just a win, that is a statement, a huge margin.
I mean, even his closest rival and teammate basically admitted defeat. After the race, Jorge Martin was pretty clear. Bezzecchi was just on another level. So case closed, right? A simple, dominant victory. Well, not exactly.
See, that clean, calm result completely hides the reality of the weekend. For almost every other top rider on the grid, this was a race defined by chaos, by crashes, and by really costly errors. The conditions at the Circuit of the Americas were just so demanding. Riders weren't just pushing for raw pace, they were having to manage risk on almost every single lap. And while Bezzecchi's performance was called near perfect, pretty much all his rivals found themselves on the wrong side of that razor's edge.
We saw it all across the field. The rising star Pedro Acosta made 2 separate mistakes that cost him. Marc Marquez had his weekend totally ruined by a penalty and some really uncharacteristic errors. And the reigning champ, Francesco Bagnaia, he had a weekend to forget, struggling home way back in 10th. The track was a minefield and almost everyone was paying the price.
But the most crucial piece of context here, the one thing that completely reframes this entire victory, isn't what his rivals did on Sunday. It's what happened to Bezzecchi himself just 24 hours earlier.
On Saturday, Bezzecchi crashed out of the sprint race. He got 0 points. That DNF turned Sunday's Grand Prix from just another race into this high-pressure test of his mental strength. He absolutely had to bounce back, and he had to do it immediately.
And you know, he admitted it himself after the race. He was devastated after that crash. So this wasn't some rider cruising into Sunday with a ton of confidence. No, this was a rider who had to dig really deep, completely reset mentally, and then deliver a perfect performance when it mattered the most.
So how did he respond to all that pressure on Sunday? Well, it wasn't about finding some magical extra bit of speed. It was about finding perfect control right when everyone else was losing theirs.
The entire dynamic of the race just shifted. It stopped being a contest of who can be the fastest, and it became all about who can be the most consistent. While other riders are having these little moments, reacting, adjusting, making mistakes, Bezzecchi just stayed within his limit. Not always faster, but always precise.
And we saw this strategy play out perfectly near the end. Jorge Martin put in a big charge, closing the gap. So, did Bezzecchi panic? Nope. He simply responded on the second-to-last lap with exactly what was needed, proving he was managing his pace the entire time. Martin was basically convinced to settle for second. It was just a masterclass in control.
And the results of all that relentless control? A new all-time MotoGP record. 121 consecutive laps led. That breaks a long-standing record held by Jorge Lorenzo. And that number, it doesn't just represent speed, it represents an incredible, truly historic level of consistency and discipline.
So when you look back at this race, what's the real takeaway? I mean, while it looked comfortable from the outside, it was anything but. It just looked that way because this was a masterclass in a totally different kind of dominance.
This win wasn't built on raw aggression. It was built on 2 key things. First, managing risk, staying just inside the limit while everybody else was going over it. And second, mastering consistency, delivering flawless lap after flawless lap, giving his rivals absolutely nothing to work with.
So really the crucial point is this. While that results sheet looks simple, the story behind it is anything but. It's such a powerful reminder that at the highest level, where everybody is unbelievably fast, the rider who wins is often just the one who makes the fewest mistakes.
And that leaves us with a really fascinating question to think about. In the heat of battle, what truly defines a champion? Is it that one spectacular, risky move?
Or is it the relentless, unwavering discipline to be perfect, lap after lap, when the pressure is absolutely at its highest?